what that was all about. And I finally said to somebody, why did we do that again? And
I had to give a whole speech.
and Vicky gave a speech. So it might be a speech that she needs to do again at some point. So you kind of understand where that came from. Because once you have a feeling of what it means, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
It's easier to get on board with that. So I just want to remind everybody that we are going to silence our cell phones, me included, so that we don't have interruptions to the speaker. And then we can introduce our roles for today. So we have our president, Dylan. I know you're driving, but we just want to say thanks for all that you do for the club, and we appreciate that. And everybody else, thanks for being here. DeAndre should be joining us at some point shortly, and we're going to be looking out for him. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce the Toastmaster for today, which is me. And I am going to just mention that we're going to introduce our roles, like our meeting roles today. So the first one is our timekeeper, who's going to be Lynn. Lynn, if you could you step up here and just tell us a little bit about your role and what you're going to be doing?
Hello, I'm Lynn Mask. I will be the timekeeper today. I will be timing the speeches. When the initial speaker reaches 5 minutes, I will hold up the green. When they reach 6, it'll be the yellow, and at 7, it'll be the red. As well as for the table topics, when they reach 1 minute, they'll receive the green, 1.5 the yellow, and 2 minutes is the red.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. Fantastic. And then next on our list, we have table topics. And today, Vicky is going to be doing table topics. Tell us a little bit about that.
Hello, everyone. Table topics is where we get to speak extemporaneously. Bet y'all didn't know I knew a word like that. Or off the cuff, that suits me better. And I will be asking some questions and giving people that don't have a speaking role, particularly 1 to 3 minutes. Oh, too short. 1 to 3 minutes. Hey, Valencia. Hey, Jake. Okay, that's it.
Great, thank you.
Have I got lined up pretty good?
Yes, I think you do. And if you come up here to speak at all and you need to adjust this, you can certainly do that. Next, we have our grammarian, and that's going to be Linnell. You want to come up and tell us a little bit about that? All right.
So good afternoon. My name is Linnell Carr, and I will be the grammarian. My responsibilities will be to comment on the positive and negative use of the English language, as well as introduce the word of the day for today, and to count the use of crutches or filler words such as and so on and so forth. And that's probably one as well. So our word of the day is going to be introversion. So it is a noun, and there are 2 definitions. One was there's several definitions of it. One is the state of being turned inward or upon oneself or itself. And then the other one that I really liked was the psychology definition, which was the state of or a tendency toward being predominantly concerned with and obtaining gratification from one's own mental life. It's a personality trait or style characterized by a preference for your orientation to one's own thoughts or feelings. And so using that in a sentence, give me 1 second, my phone doesn't want to recognize my face today. So we expected our sample to show elevated neuroticism and introversion. Also, the key is to recognize that introversion is an asset and not a liability. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, I don't know if it's a correct use, but I think those of us who are trying to become better speakers, and I don't know if you all can see where she's put that up, but we all struggle with some level of introversion, being inward focused, especially when we're up here in front of other people. So that's very appropriate. Okay, and our next meeting role is our first speech evaluator, Lamima. Come up and tell us a little bit about what you're going to do.
Hi guys. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And I am going to be evaluating the speech that Valencia will be giving. And I would just be listening and offering any constructive feedback on how she delivered and offer any improvements if there are any. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Fantastic, and DeAndre is not here yet, is that right? Okay, no problem. All right, and last, I guess, is Jake. Jake's going to be our general evaluator. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Jake?
I'll be the general evaluator. This is my first time doing it, so hopefully it'll go smoothly. But the general evaluator role is to basically go over at the end and summarize how the meeting went, give their thoughts on the flow of things, and just really evaluate how the meeting went. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Vicki is now turning up the volume
I'm
so
trying, but I can't.
everybody in here can hear.
Could barely hear Jake. Oh, that's all the way up.
It's all the
Okay.
way up. Here's Dylan, everybody, trying to sneak in the back. Woo-hoo. Okay, so thank you to everyone for coming up and telling us a little bit about your roles. So today's theme is, what can we learn from the animal kingdom?
Mhm.
So one thing is for certain, people love animals. Whether it's something you're watching on TV, you know, the Nature Channel, or whether it's going to Animal Kingdom, like I just had the opportunity to do a few weeks ago, or whether it's the animals that are in your house that you get to see every day or in the backyard. And after coming back, has anybody else gotten to go to Animal Kingdom? Disney Animal Kingdom? Okay. Well, if you've got little ones or just need an excuse to go, I would go. It's amazing. So the great thing about that is they have a safari experience, which is massive. I think it is one of the largest theme parks in the world as far as, you know, land mass. And you get to see all these incredible animals, from, you know, the elephants. And it's not like a zoo where they're all in their own little exhibit. They're free roaming and they're together. So you get to see the zebras and the giraffes and everything. And so when I was thinking about that later, I thought, you know, these different animals, they all kind of have their own characteristics. I don't want to say personality traits, but they have characteristics. And I was just kind of thinking about that. And I was thinking about, like, for example, the elephant. So the elephant is strong, very methodical in how, when it sets its direction, that's the way it's going. And they're known to be fiercely loyal to family. And you have a giraffe. Giraffe is very gentle, and it has the ability to look forward. All right, then you have a beaver. A beaver's a hard worker, and they gnaw at a task until it's completed. You might have a hippo. A hippo is kind of behind the scenes, doesn't have to be front and center, doesn't need to have the spotlight. And then a dog, thinking about just something we all come in contact with. Dogs are very social. They're always looking for new and exciting opportunities. And they're encouragers. You know, my daughter wants a cat, and I'm not a cat person. I don't want something that thinks I'm privileged to be able to give it attention. You know, my little dog, I go to the mailbox and come back, and it's just like Secret Life of Pets, the movie. It's like I've been gone for hours, and I love that. Love how that makes me feel. Each of us has different strengths that we've been born with, and we have that are natural, and we all have areas that we can work on. So what I want to do is I just want to encourage all of us that when we happen to be watching television, or if we are observing animals in our backyard or our pets, and we happen to think, next time our dog greets us, he's always there to encourage me. Or we see an eagle and how an eagle looks way out over the landscape, has a vision, and yet can make a decision quickly. Think about how you can learn from that and apply some of those characteristics from the animal kingdom to your own life. Okay, so now we're going to get ready for our first speech. Valencia Timms is working on level 1 in engaging humor. This speech will stretch her abilities with vocal variety and body language. The speech will reflect on her decision to get her son a pet dog and how that decision has impacted her life. Take it away, Valencia.
Thank you so much. My fellow Toastmasters, this may be a controversial issue to discuss. There being dog people and cat people, you never know how these things will land. But I'm here to tell you the story about the introvert, me, and the social pet, my standard poodle, Coral. Let me start by saying I didn't want a dog. I suffered from tremendous peer pressure when my son Cornelius was smaller. All my coworkers said he needs a dog, so he won't be by himself. No, I don't want a dog. He can't take care of it, and all the work will be on me. A few years ago, Cornelius started asking for a dog. I told him all the responsibilities he'd have, and of course, what did he do? He made all these promises. Mom, I'll do it. I'll feed him. I'll clean up. I'll do this. And of course, he didn't keep them. I mean, it's a lot of work. I gave in when I closed on our house and decided to get the puppy. Oh, I was in for it. I was thinking, we will train her and it will be fine. Goes to show how much I know. One thing I never thought I'd say, my puppy brought out the whole little girl in me. Ew, that's gross. Yeah, don't eat that. Get your mouth off of that. I was constantly in a state of that green yuck sticker that meant nasty. Then the worst of it, my friends all had this advice that having a dog is just like having a baby. I know you've heard this before. It's just like having a baby, but I beg to differ. I never saw a kid put these things in their mouths. And just go with me for 1 second. Imagine you're walking down the street with your new baby. Most of the time, people will wave and smile, but never in a million years have I ever experienced a complete stranger walking up to my baby, pick him up, or pet him. For me, this was horrifying. I mean, is this normal? I knew some of my neighbors before, but now people from all around the corner and off Main Street and from the park down the street wanted to meet us. Oh, look, I understand. There's there's lots of dog people out there who just can't resist the urge to pet every dog they see. I just wasn't ready for it. And explain this to me. One day, while walking my dog, a woman walked up to me and said, "I'm not a dog person. She's beautiful though." What? What was I supposed to do with that? Look, I've been a Toastmaster since 2017, 5 wonderful years, but it has not prepared me for these interactions. On the outside, when strangers approach me with the dog, I'd smile, answer their questions, let them pet her. And she loved it. She couldn't get enough attention from one end of the neighborhood to the other. But I think somehow in all of that, I changed something in her. Coral was a social pet. She was fearless with her elevator speech, which was mostly wagging and licking. I appeared fine on the outside, but on the inside, I was freaking out. Please don't touch my dog. Please don't. Just please, no. On the outside, oh yes, yes. As time went on, I noticed a change in Coral. Where before she loved strangers' approach and interaction, she started barking at people who were over a block away and going in the opposite direction. Sometimes even when they weren't anywhere near us. Oh no, yikes. How do I get her to calm down? No barking. We don't need to bark at neighbors. How do I teach her that? When I took the time to really think about it though, I realized, this is about me. She was protecting me. Her barking was saying, "Hey, she doesn't want you over here. Stay back." I heard that dogs internalize our emotions. I couldn't fake it with her. I had a lot of anxiety about these strangers touching my puppy. I had to work on changing how I feel about these interactions so my pet could continue to be social. It's a work in progress. I never thought this was a lesson I'd learned from having a dog, but I'm grateful for this lesson. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters.
Fantastic. Thank you, Valencia. Appreciate that. You know, I don't know that I'll ever walk by another dog and their owner in the neighborhood the same way again. When they're greeting me like, "Hey, sure, pet my dog," I'm going to be thinking about your speech, thinking, do they really mean don't come anywhere near me and please don't touch my dog? It's possible. I'm not sure. I'll have to process that. But I loved it. Thank you. You know, just yesterday, thinking about dogs, and I don't know if you said, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a standard poodle, a chocolate standard poodle.
Okay, okay. Well, I took our dog to the groomer yesterday, and there was a whole bunch of people dropping off their dogs at the same time. And I had mine in my arms, as well as several of the other people that were there. And a lady got out of her car, and she had a beautiful golden retriever that was so well behaved. And when she walked up to the door, because it wasn't open yet, she just made a motion and the dog laid down. And I looked at her and I said, "That dog is so well trained." She said, "Well, it's a service dog." I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "Yeah, my son has seizures. And this dog can sense when my son is having a seizure, and it will come over and just lay down right beside him and press up against him." And she said, ever since they got this dog, that his seizures aren't lasting as long. And so it's just dogs perform all kinds of important roles in our lives. I was thinking about that, just hearing what you had to say. Well, next up, we have Dylan. And the title of his speech is "Life Ain't Fair." Dylan is giving speech number 4 evaluation and feedback, number 1, in the motivational strategies pathway. In his speech entitled Life Ain't Fair, Dylan recounts stories from his childhood and how his family's words of wisdom shaped him into who he is today. Dylan, come on up.
Excellent. Thank you. You better suck it up before I really give you something to cry about. That's what my mom said to me as she dragged me by the arm out of my grandparents' house and into our car. And I said, but why? It ain't fair that my cousins get to spend the night and I don't. Now, coming from a 4-year-old, you could understand that life didn't seem very fair. But as my mom buckled me in, sped out the driveway, she looked at me and said, life ain't fair, and you better get used to it. Those words have a profoundly different meaning to an adult than they do to a kid. And it would be years before I really understood the impact and the meaning of those words. Fast forward to 2008. I was 15 going on 16 at the time. And my mom came in from work. And she looked at me and my brother and said, I've got good news and bad news. Good news. First, we have the opportunity to move to Mexico. The plant's closing down, and they offered me a new job, teaching and training everyone in Mexico. Well, as you can see, I'm not speaking Spanish today. The bad news is my mom lost her job in the middle of the financial crisis. And she would go on to be employed for a full 2 years in the midst of that situation. Life ain't fair. A few months later that summer, my mom can vividly remember coming into my room and telling me that her dad had been diagnosed with cancer. He wasn't going to make it. The same grandpa she had to drag me away from earlier. I can remember wrapping my arms around her neck and her telling me the same words that she said her father once told her, to let the tears out. Let the tears out, because the world can handle it when you can't. Life ain't fair, guys. November 2008, I turned 16, and when most people would be excited because they'd get driver's license, a car, cruise around town, go out with their friends, I was excited because I got to go to McDonald's, Burger King, Chubby's Pizza, Bojangles, ask for an application, fill it out, and get my first job. I wanted to be able to help out around the house. I was very, very fortunate that I was offered a job as a pizza delivery boy for Chubby's Pizza. As a 16-year-old driving cars up and down back roads of Bailey, North Carolina, you could imagine best experience in the world. However, it doesn't take long before you come home smelling like pizza every night that you quickly get tired of it. And I remember complaining to my dad, and I said, this ain't fair. Why does everyone else get to go out, spend time with their friends, go party on Friday nights, go to football games? They get to have fun, and I have to go to work. Life ain't fair. And that was a foolish thing to tell him. He told me, he said, I know you're not about to quit. If you want to change your life, you need to work harder. You need to do something about it. This isn't a time to complain about life not being fair. Everybody's going through tough times. And it was in that moment that I decided I would make a difference. I would do something about my situation. I wouldn't just sit by and watch my life pass me by. And I wouldn't sit by smelling like pizza for the rest of my life. I went in to work and I started requesting more shifts because it was easy. Anybody can drive a car. I started requesting more shifts. I determined that I was going to work harder and study harder in school. And I was by far not the smartest person in my high school. But because I decided to take honors classes and AP courses at my high school, and I determined that I was going to get the best grades that I possibly could, I was able to graduate valedictorian from my high school. And the story gets better because that gave me the opportunity to go to NC State, where I had more bills to pay. So I had more bills to pay, tuition to pay. Rent in Raleigh is just as expensive as it is here. So I picked up extra jobs through college, sometimes 2 jobs at a time while studying. And in working through that tough time, a time when people would say life isn't fair, I was given the opportunity now to work as a financial advisor, where I help people who've recently lost their jobs, where I help people who've recently lost a loved one, where I help people who want to save and make a difference in the lives of their families and the lives of people in their communities. So when I look back and I think that life isn't fair, I look at it from the perspective of, God, I couldn't be more blessed than what I am right now to have gone through those experiences. Sometimes there's pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. When you want to question God, when you want to look around and say life isn't fair, I want to challenge you to remember my story and remember that oftentimes we can't see the goodness that's happening in the tragedies that we're going through. Fellow Toastmasters, life ain't fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. You know, I think I mentioned it last time, but your pizza moment, I had a very similar experience. I worked at a cinder block factory where I stood at the end of a conveyor belt 8 hours a day. And as the cinder blocks came down the assembly line, I picked them up and stacked them on a pallet. As soon as it got full, fork truck came in, took them off. And I did that for, it wasn't very long. And I thought, I got to go to college because I can't do this. I mean, my forearms, I looked like Popeye, but that was the only thing that was in shape at the time. But you know, you're right. Life ain't fair. We all have times where we've sat around with our friends and we've complained that life ain't fair. And I have to think, if animals could talk, you know, when everybody leaves Disney at night, they're all sitting around the campfire. Do they complain? Do you have the hyena that looks at the rhino and says, oh, I wish I had tougher skin. Wish I wasn't so thin-skinned. Do you have the little meerkat who sees the giraffe walk by and say, I'm too short. I wish I were taller. You know, do you have the wildebeest who looks at the monkey in the trees and says, I wish I could climb in trees because then I wouldn't have to worry about the lions. I would encourage us all to make a decision to not complain. I think we'll be better off and the people around us will be too. Okay, so now we're going to do table topics. Vicki, come on up.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Thank you, Dylan, for that applause.
It's my favorite part.
I know. I don't understand it. I have to beg for applause. I must not be any good, right, Valencia? You're the only person I can see. Let me get it off. Oh, well, anyway. This is a very good topic. We've been talking a lot today about pets. And Scott is, I'll tell you this in a minute. First, I want to ask Jonathan because he's leaving. Are you still leaving at 1 o'clock?
No, they pushed it back to 1:30.
Oh, good. Okay. Then I'm not going to tell you I'm going to call on you, but I will anyway. We're going to start with Jonathan. We're talking about animals. So Jonathan, and I don't usually call the name first, but he tricked me. So what animal would you want to be other than you can't say a dog or a cat? What animal would you want to be other than a dog or cat? And tell us why. Woohoo!
That is a hard one because all animals have their pluses and minuses. I mean, you think of a lion in the savannah, sunning himself, king of the savannah, almost nothing's afraid of him. That'd be great. But then, I don't know, it gets hot in savannah. So what else is there? I always saw on TV the other day, I was watching one of those nature shows, had dolphins. A dolphin would be nice. They are very intelligent. They had them jumping through waves and saying, there's no reason for them to jump through waves. They just do it for fun. You know, that to me sounds about right. I would love to be a dolphin jumping through waves just for the sheer hell of it because it feels good. That sounds ideal to me. But then they put up, the predators of the dolphins. I went, being eaten by a shark doesn't really suit me. But out of everyone, I think, yeah, I'd still be a dolphin. I still would be a dolphin going around in my little pod.
Good choice. I guess he's done.
Yeah, I'm done.
Next question. There are certain species of animals that mate for life. What lesson could we learn from these animals? Linnell, would you come answer that for us?
What lessons could we learn from those animals who mate for life? I think that the lesson that I would learn is that you have to just love the one you with, no matter what their faults may be, no matter if you have disagreements, those things will pass. And just love them. So.
That's exactly right, because they don't have divorce in the animal kingdom, right? Thank you so much. Last question. We talked about lessons we could learn from the animal kingdom, so that's what I'm going to ask this question. Tell us a lesson you have learned from some animal in the animal kingdom. And since Jeffrey showed up, I'm going to call on him. Yay, Jeffrey.
Wow, what a great question. I think one thing that we learned from the animal kingdom overall, that there's a hierarchy. There are certain animals that you need to be aware of because they'll eat you. And at the same time, you can also be the predator yourself. So I think when you look at life and you look at hierarchies, especially in this society where you see certain people have all the resources, and that might equate to some of the animals in the animal kingdom, the lion who eats all the resources, and you see the wild deer antelope running from them. So I'm not sure which one you guys think we are. Are we the lion or are we the deer running from all these things that are going on? But I think hierarchy, and I think really we can learn a lot from nature overall in terms of what's healthy for us. So I think you see the animals that, they don't have the modified foods that we eat. So I think we can learn maybe to be closer to nature, watching the animals and how they thrive with all the chemicals we have today. So hierarchies, learning from nature. And I think also there's like a balance in nature as well. Without the human intervention, things seem to balance out. And I think that's one thing we also can learn in our lives, how to have balance. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Scott, we're improvising with turning the tablet around so everybody can see you guys. Thank you for those questions. We do have 2 speeches today, so we're actually going to close out table topics, and I'll relinquish control to our group.
Thank you.
Clap for him, somebody. Okay.
Oh, you did. Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. And let me just ask if you can send your vote for best table topic speech to Vicky. Well, okay. I don't know how. Well, why don't we do it in the room? So if you want to write it down and just hand it to Vicky, then we'll go with. Well, Vicky, what would you like to do? What do you think we should do?
Let's just say everybody's a winner.
Okay, everybody's a winner. If you responded to one of the table topics questions,
Yeah, participation trophy.
there you go. You got one of these today. All right, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to have our evaluation for our first speaker. Lamima, are you ready for that? Okay, here she comes. She's going to evaluate Valencia.
Okay. All right. Valencia, sorry. You did a great job. Good topic. Kept me fully engaged the entire time. You are a great storyteller, and I think I got a little caught up in listening. So it was your speech was really good, very humorous, and very well organized. I love the animation that you use, your moving around, your facial expressions, all of that. It tied very well into the content of what you were talking about. And your voice inflections and all of that worked very well with your speech. I didn't really have any, I don't have any improvements. I just, being new to this, I'm still learning myself, but I learned from you, and I think you did a great job. So just want to encourage you to just continue to do what you do, and you set a good example there. It ended very well. I saw how it tied into your theme, your topic, how you ended, and the lesson that you learned about your dog and what your dog actually taught you. By how you are, I think they kind of rub off on us. And so that was a great lesson learned. Never thought of that before. I thought everything was clear. And as I said, your theme, all that, your content was supported by what your topic was about. So thank you and great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and Vicky ended up doing a evaluation on Dylan. So Vicky, come on up and give us your evaluation.
Oh, yes. Any time I can take pot shots at Dylan, I am on board. Yay. Thank you, DeAndre, for not showing up. DeAndre had a last minute conflict. So this is great. Life ain't fair. Wow. I love that. And he said it throughout his speech. I love that. I love the way he started out and he got our attention. You just better suck it up. That was good. I think my parents, I used to tell my daughter that too, life ain't fair, because so that's been around a long time, but it still works. I love the way he moved around. He tried to move around a little bit. It's really hard to do because of the cameras. You can't go too far like we used to do when we had our room. We could just be all over the place, but he still did some of that. And he had really good voice inflection. He would be up and down, and that was good. When he wanted to make a serious point, he talked very low, and good eye contact. And for you new people, what we say good eye contact is not just scanning the room like that, making people think they're at a tennis match. It's actually looking at somebody for an entire phrase or thought and then looking at another person. Watch your, those of you that attend church, watch your pastor and see how they do with eye contact. It's amazing. It's a skill that we learn here. I love it when he said, fast forward to 2008. That was good. I've heard several people do that, and that was really good. I like the let the tears out. Very good advice. Very good advice. I like the way he handled Scott's phone ringing when Scott left it on the lectern. And I don't know if y'all on the TV.
It vibrated.
Yeah, it vibrated, but he didn't skip a beat. He just handed it to Scott, and he probably on the phone, Zoom, probably didn't even realize what was going on. But that's another skill, because when we first start speaking, we can like, oh, or something like that. So and he's a seasoned speaker. I'm just, trying to boost him up a little bit. Now I'll get to the grows. Those are some of the glows. For a while there, you stopped saying life ain't fair, and you said isn't. And I'm like, well, why did you do that? I love life ain't fair. I think you could have used a longer introduction. It's kind of short. I'm big on introductions. And maybe you could have acted out some of those voices. You talked about your mother gave you advice, maybe speak like her, and then was it your uncle? I think maybe speak like him or somebody. But he has great humor all the way through, and he smiles constantly. And that's another skill that we learn in Toastmasters. It's hard to concentrate and focus on what you're supposed to say and try to remember to smile. So good job at that. I believe Dylan is on his second pass, right? Kudos, he's the first one in this club to achieve being on the second pass. So before you know it, he's going to be a distinguished Toastmaster, and I'm looking forward to that. So good job, Dylan. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Appreciate that. Okay, great. And now it is time for our grammarian report. Linnell, are you ready to do that?
Yes.
Come on up.
This is my first one, so please bear with me. For the Toastmaster, you did use the word of the day.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to keep adding things to mine as I talk up here. I have heard a couple of ums and ahs and you knows when you were speaking. Table topics master, and I'll do as well as the evaluator. There were a couple of ums and you knows in your evaluation. Jonathan, I don't think I heard any real butts that were out of place. Butts that are out of place. So Jonathan, I heard like a so on yours, I believe. With me, I've had about 4 ums today. Jeffrey, I had a and a couple of so and you know. Valencia, I don't have anything. It's like you were almost perfect with your speech. Grammar was good, no issues there. Dylan as well was very good. I think I heard like maybe one, you know, that might have been out of place. And then Lamima, I had about 19 during your evaluation. So, and that makes 5 for me now, so I'm almost catching up with you. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to just give you a little encouragement here. When I'm up here, can you see what that says? On every page, because I need that visual. So the next person we have is the general evaluator. Jake, are you ready to do that?
Yep. Well, I thought the meeting went very well today. As always, it started precisely on time and stayed on schedule, just like the agenda stayed on. I'm trying to look at agenda as well. I'm sorry. The speeches were very great today. Valencia, excellent job, and Dylan, great job as well. I really enjoyed both of those. The table topics were really good. I haven't had to answer a table topic lately, so maybe I can answer one next week. But let me move on down. So all in all, I think the flow of everything was very well. That's my report for today. I'm sorry it's not more lengthy.
Thanks, Jake. No problem there. I think what we're going to do next time, I'm going to talk to DeAndre, but maybe we'll start using the TV again, just so there's not all the, I'm getting dizzy here, you know, with all of the around and around. Well, at this point, I think we have gone through all the different parts of the meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to Dylan as acting president. Oh, wait, did I miss something? Oh, yes, the times. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Lynn, come on up and give us the times. I don't know how I missed that, but thank you.
Hello. So Valencia had a time of 6 minutes and 18 seconds, so she qualified. Dylan had a talk time of 6 minutes and 5 seconds. He also qualified. Lamina talked for 1 minute and 39 seconds, so she qualified. And Vicky talked for 3 minutes and 4 seconds. Again, she qualified. Jonathan was at 1:24, and Jeffrey was at 1:16. They both qualified. And unfortunately, Linnell, you only have 30 seconds.
You'll get better.
Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate that. Okay, now somehow turn my flashlight on. Okay, and I think at this point, now we can turn it over to Dylan.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. One of my challenges at the beginning of the year for us as a club was to really push ourselves to grow. A few weeks ago, we had Jonathan give a really, really difficult speech. And I think that we can all say that we grew through that. Today was a really challenging day for me. My pathway is to give motivational talks. I can engage in humor all day long, and I really wanted to pick that pathway because I think that it's fun. But today for me was very challenging. When I practiced my speech, for the first time, recounting my mom's words to me, those real words, it really stuck with me, and I couldn't make it through my whole speech. And that's the kind of way that I want us to challenge ourselves to grow. I wanted to highlight Scott. Scott's done an excellent job, not only saying no ums, but several months ago, I encouraged Scott, I don't know if it's several months ago or several weeks ago, but I encouraged Scott, hey, when we pick a theme for the meeting, let's carry that theme all the way through, not just at the beginning. And you notice that he's shared several stories about animals through the entirety of today's theme. And so I would say we are meeting our objective of really challenging each other and pushing each other to experience the kind of growth that we're all looking for. So it's been a really productive meeting. To go announced, we have officer training this weekend. If you haven't seen that or unaware, reach out to me so we can get all of our officers trained. A lot of great ideas being exchanged in that. I believe for any of our officers, they can serve as an area role in the area roles, right? We've been asked for help in assisting our area in that. So if anybody wants to volunteer for that, feel free to. And then as well, we have our officer meeting coming up in a week or so, 2 weeks, something like that. You know, it's on the calendar, you know, right? All right. And with that being said, in our officer meeting, we discussed 2 things that we really needed to get some action on: Wi-Fi hotspot within the room. How are we going to address that? We didn't have any issues today, but it doesn't mean that we don't have issues. So that was your assigned task. Be sure that you're working on that so that we have some resolution and some action moving forward. And we also talked about potential locations, and Ted volunteered to look into that, and he's not here for me to remind him of that. But Ted, if you're out there or you're watching the video today, don't forget to do that.
You know, one thing in prior clubs, if anybody at their work location has any access to a conference room where we can meet for an hour, that's always an option. So we've got so many new members that I don't even know where people all work.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So if any members out there would like to or know of a facility that they have a conference room, something like that at their work that we could utilize, and don't charge us an arm and a leg to do it.
$25 is really mounting up. Yeah, it really does. It doesn't sound like much, but.
And then lastly, Valencia is putting together a plan for we won't call it fundraising, but sponsorship, things of that nature, what that might look like too. And we're going to discuss that in our next officer meeting. So I just wanted to remind, with that deadline coming up, if you haven't taken any course of action on your assigned task, just to remind you to do that when that comes around so we can keep moving forward. With that being said, the meeting is adjourned.